What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Kevin Hoop Show. We've got Marlon, Chito, Vera going up against Cory Sandhagen, possibly for the #1 contender spot. Possibly the winner of this might be going for a title shot after it. So a lot of exciting things happening with this fight in particular. Do not forget, guys, if you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button real quick. I would really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into these predictions. Let's get into breaking down this fight as well. We're kind of going to do both at one time. Now, Marlon Chito Vera is someone that I've been watching probably since his Sean O'Malley fight. I haven't been watching him too much, but I did watch that Sean O'Malley fight. Now, it says KO/TKO. Sean O'Malley was saying that his foot hurt, blah, 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 blah. But Marlon Chito Vera did get that win, and I thought that was pretty impressive for him to get that win. And he's been on a pretty good run since. I think since then, he's only lost once or twice. So the only loss he actually had was to Jose Aldo, which honestly is pretty, not that unimpressive. I think that Jose Aldo still has a lot of skill. He was one of the best lightweights to ever do it. And the fact that he was still competing and, performing at that level doesn't really surprise me all too much. And I think that it's honestly a good experience kind of curve that Marlon Chito Vera actually kind of step backs for a second and then, self-analyzes and analyzes in his fight camp where his strengths and weaknesses are and what he needs to improve on. And since that fight, he hasn't lost. He's won against Davy Grant, and may I add, who the fuck names their kid Davy? But he's won against him. He's won over Frankie Edgar. He's won over Rob Font. He's won over Dominic Cruz, which I thought was probably one of the more impressive ones out of those 4 or 5, other than the Jose Aldo win or lost to him. But either way, I do think that since then, he's obviously learned his mistakes in the Jose Aldo fight. He learned his strengths, learned his weaknesses, and has been going on a tear through this bantamweight division. Now to go over more to Cory Sandhagen's side, I think that Cory Sandhagen has a lot going for him. I think not only does he have really good striking, but, he's got a little bit of a reach advantage usually against the majority of his opponents and uses that pretty well. I've actually seen 1 or 2 of Cory Sandhagen's fights so far, and I think that he looks alright, but does have a lot of things to learn, especially in that TJ Dillashaw fight recently. I thought that, it was going to be a good fight, but I did think that Cory Sandhagen had the advantage. I think TJ Dillashaw was coming off a really long break, and this was Cory Sandhagen's shot to prove to everybody that he is a title contender. He is a #1 contender. And he didn't show up. And I think kind of the same thing happened when he fought Peter Yan. And Peter Yan hasn't been even looking too hot recently. Now, he did get a win over Yadong Song. I like to say Song Yadong, but you gotta respect the name Yadong Song. He did win that most recent fight. Back in September of 2020, he won that Yadong fight. So I think that shows that, he's still at the top, but is he really capable of going to that #1 contender spot and fighting for the title? He obviously hasn't fought for the title yet. I don't think he has had any #1 contender spots. If he has, then I might have missed that. But either way, I do think that Cory Sandhagen has the potential, but he has to show that he has that potential to be the #1 contender. I don't think he's recently proven that, he's that guy when he's losing to Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley's over here beating Peter Yan. Just that alone, I think, goes to show Sean O'Malley has a little bit more potential than Cory Sandhagen. Now, both of these guys have wins over Frankie Edgar, and that's where I think that this could be a really interesting fight. If we see a really good Cory Sandhagen, I think that we might see a Cory Sandhagen KO. But if we see a good Chito Vera, I think that we could, see a Chito Vera TKO or just a pure domination match on the ground. Now, one thing I want to point out is kind of where these guys are in age and in their fighting careers and kind of, compare the two. And I think that, these guys are both 30 years old exactly. Not 1 year, I'm sure there's a few days or a few months in between. But either way, these guys are basically the same exact age. And it seems to me that Marlon Vera has more experience than Cory Sandhagen does. But my only thing to counter that is Cory Sandhagen has some more tougher opponents, as in TJ Dillashaw, as in Peter Yan, as in Frankie Edgar. He's just fought some more experienced guys who have been more accomplished, and I think that if he's learned the right things from those fights, then he can make leaps and bounds in this Marlon Chito Vera fight. But on the other side, Marlon Chito Vera has been looking really good. Again, he's on a 4-fight win streak right now, and I think he's really hasn't looked any weaker than in that last Jose Aldo fight. Like, that's really the last time I really saw holes in his game, and he hasn't showed me any reason to be doubting him in this fight. Now, not only does Marlon Chito Vera, in my opinion, have a little bit more experience, yes, Cory Sandhagen has the tougher opponents, but again, I think Marlon Chito Vera has more experience. He has more fights, he has more knockouts, he has more submissions, he just has more overall, and that's where I don't think Cory Sandhagen is necessarily capable of finishing a fight. I think, yes, he can look good in 3 rounds, but his really capability of finishing a fight hasn't really been there. He's had almost 20 fights, and out of those 20 fights, he's only had about 10 finishes. That's only about 50% compared to Marlon Chito Vera, who has 16 finishes out of 27 fights. So obviously bigger than a 50% finishing rate there. And that's what you want as a fighter. When you don't have that over 50% finishing rate, it really goes to show, can you finish a fight? And if you can't finish a fight, that means it's going to the judges. And when things go to the judges, it never goes well for anybody. So my biggest question for Cory Sandhagen in this fight is, will he be able to finish Marlon Chito Vera on the feet? Because obviously Marlon Chito Vera comes from a grappling background, and I highly doubt Cory Sandhagen, who's a favored striker, is going to try and take down Marlon Vera. Now, I don't know if it's me, but honestly, it feels a little weird saying Marlon Vera when everybody kind of really goes by Chito Vera. So I'm just going to start saying Chito, or I'm just going to say, start saying Chito Vera. Chito Vera is looking very fucking good. I like it ever since he went with the buzz cut look. He's been looking like an absolute savage. I like Cory Sandhagen as well. The fight against TJ Dillashaw really got me excited for him in that fight, and I really wanted him to get a win because it would do him really well in this division. And you saw where TJ Dillashaw went after beating Cory Sandhagen. He ended up going off to fight for the title. Now, I'm not saying Cory Sandhagen could have went off and fought the title, but he could have been in that #1 contender spot and fought for the title after. We now have Henry Cejudo fighting versus Aljamain Sterling, and these guys are 3 and 5 in the division right now. You also have Peter Yan coming off a loss to Merab, who's now the #1 contender. So in my opinion, maybe you have Sean O'Malley versus Merab. Maybe the winner of this fights Sean O'Malley or Merab, and then the winner of that faces the winner of Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling. I do think there's a lot of different things that can happen in this bantamweight division that, in my opinion, are pretty exciting. We haven't seen Sean O'Malley in a while. Merab looked absolutely phenomenal against Peter Yan in that last fight, which was just about 2 weeks ago. So I really do think that there is a lot of potential in this division for some up-and-comers. And Aljamain Sterling, who knows what he'll look like against Henry Cejudo, and who knows what Henry Cejudo will look like after coming off such a long break. So I do think that there's potential for someone to come up here and take the belt. Whether it's Cory Sandhagen, whether it's Peter Yan, which I highly doubt, whether it's Chito Vera, who I think is very, likely. I think there is a high possibility for him to do something. And even if we see Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera rematch, I think that sells pay-per-views 110%. I remember that fight. I think a lot of other people remember that fight. And we really didn't get what we wanted in that fight. It ended up really kind of being a technical stoppage, in my opinion. And it just didn't move forward. And Sean O'Malley definitely looked like he was injured in that fight during the fight, or whether it happened before, after, who knows. Either way, Sean O'Malley, I think, definitely has an upcoming fight against one of these fellow fighters, whether it's going to be Chito Vera or whether it's going to be Cory Sandhagen. Maybe another Peter Yan match. I highly doubt that. Possibly Merab, We shall see. Possibly for the title. We shall see. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing a live watch party this Saturday, aka tomorrow. We're going to be going live around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be watching Marlon, Chito, Vera go up against Cory Sandhagen. It's going to be a good one. We're going to have beer. We're going to have wings. We're going to have pizza. It's going to be fun. We're going to be looking at the UFC ring girls all fucking night. It's going to be a great one, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to like, comment down below who you think is going to win this fight, whether it's Marlon, Chito, Vera, or Cory Sandhagen. Tell me who's going to fight for the belt next. I like your guys' opinions and comments. It always brings me joy reading them. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new, and have a great fucking day.